marriage was a waste of time, so I started an affair. But I saw my husband reading my text WAP.
My husband was reading the text from my affair while I was taking a shower. When I opened the door, "Hey there, the mini community of Reddit. My name is Katrina, 33 and married to Neville, 37 for 4 years. I am here to share how my husband came to know about my affair and what he did after that. I am not here for people to judge my actions and tell me that I deserved it because I was the one who cheated. To start off, I met Neville when I was in the middle of changing jobs. He was the one who interviewed and rejected me for one of the jobs I had applied for. I was already pissed off at him and was sitting in the food court thinking about my next interview when he walked towards me and offered me a coffee. I thought that he was trying to rub it in my face that I was not good enough for the position that I had applied, but he helped me with tips on how I should give my next interview. I found that to be sweet and kind. With his help, I was able to get a job at a different place and started working. I was so dumb that I didn't even ask for his number to thank him for his help. Looking back, I realized that his gesture was not meant to belittle me, but rather to offer support and guidance. It's a shame that I didn't have his number to call and express my gratitude. I didn't have to wait too long as I met him at one of a corporate event for companies around the city. It was a 2-day event where they organized games and activities for people from the same profession to get to know each other. I spent a lot of time catching up with Neville and thanking him for his insights, which helped me get a job. I also took the opportunity to apologize for not staying in touch and express my regret for not acknowledging his guidance earlier. Neville was gracious and understanding, assuring me that he was happy to see my success and that he understood how busy life can get. We exchanged contact information and made a promise to stay connected moving forward. We started talking and very soon we fell in love. Maybe it was because we could relate to our work that pulled us towards each other. Within a span of 8 months, we decided to get married. We did not have time for our honeymoon, so we decided to have it during our Christmas break. We were both busy with our jobs, and it was not a big deal to go on a honeymoon immediately after getting married. Neville was promoted 2 years after we were married. After his promotion, Neville had become like a completely different person. He was so obsessed with work that he hardly spent time at home. When he was home, he barely slept and was on his laptop continuously typing at a non-human speed and kept yelling at his associates. It was freaking me the hell out. I told him that he was dangerously obsessed with his job and it was becoming addictive. We started having fights around his work as it had now slowly crawled into the bedroom. Neville's obsession with work not only affected our relationship, but also his physical and mental health. It was clear that his job had taken complete control over his life, leaving little room for anything else. I became increasingly concerned about the toll it was taking on him and our relationship. I did not know what to do and started distancing myself from Neville. I was not even interested in having a conversation with him anymore. One of the guys at my office had always had a crush on me and would always try to make a pass at me. I was so frustrated with life that I decided to accept his advances since I started feeling as if I live alone and am not even married. I did not try to ignore him and gave him a smile as I passed him. However, deep down, I knew that using someone else to fill the void in my relationship with Neville was not the solution. As much as I craved attention and companionship, I needed to confront my feelings and address the issues within my relationship before making any impulsive decisions. The affair between me and Jack has been going strong for the past 1 year. I never had so much fun in my life after getting married. It felt as if I had wasted 4 years of my life with Neville. All I could find in the last 4 years was boring conversations about work and economics with little to no fun. We never went out to parties or to get together or even on dates. I was living a very sad life before I met Jack. But with Jack, everything changed. He brought excitement and adventure back into my life. We would go on spontaneous road trips, try new restaurants, and dance the night away at clubs. It was like a breath of fresh air after suffocating in a dull and monotonous marriage. I finally felt alive again, experiencing joy and laughter that had been absent for far too long. Recently, I noticed that Neville had suddenly been trying to make time for me and make time to have conversations with me. I was surprised as to this sudden change in his behavior. I did not know what got into him recently. He asked me if we could go out on a date on the weekend. Of course, I had plans with Jack, but I wasn't going to let him know about it. I agreed to go on a date with Neville as I did not want him to be suspicious of me and Jack. After the date, Neville started making plans of where we could go out on a holiday, and spend some time alone with each other. It was getting difficult for me and Jack to spend time with each other, as I was being occupied by Neville almost every weekend. Jack and I decided to meet in the middle of the week in case Neville made plans for the weekend. I texted Neville that I had a meeting outside of the city as I didn't want to talk to him. He had gotten very clingy and annoying. I booked the hotel far from the city to make sure that we did not cross paths with Neville or anyone we knew. We made sure that we drove in separate cars just in case we got spotted by someone. We spent the entire day together lazing around and making love to each other. It had been so long that we did not get to see each other privately. I came home after spending my day with Jack. To my surprise, Neville was already home and was waiting for me. I told him that I was so tired that I would like to have a leisurely shower to help me relax after such a tiring day. He smiled at me and told me that I looked very stressed and deserved to pamper myself. I kissed him and went into the bathroom to enjoy my shower. When I came out, I saw him with my phone reading something very intently. I came closer and noticed that he was reading the chat between me and Jack. I was shocked to see how he was even able to get into my phone. I was pretty sure that I changed the password and was positive that it was impossible for him to crack it. I knew that he had his doubts about me cheating, so I was taking extra care of being cautious. And Neville looked at me and gave me a smile, telling me that he has never read such passionate messages being exchanged between two people ever. He said that he could clearly see the passion and desire for each other flowing through the conversations. I couldn't make out if he was being sarcastic or truthful about it. He did not look surprised or upset about the chats or the fact that I was cheating on him. I wasn't sure if he already knew about it, and that was the reason he was trying to be nice to me, just to check if his speculations were right, or he was just trying to accuse me of something without any proof. I was still in my bathrobe, so I decided to sway him by seducing him with my body and see if it works. He looked at me with an expression which could easily be translated to, "Are you being serious right now?" He told me that he understood why I did what I did. He agreed that he did not fulfill his duties as a husband, and that was the reason why I had to take this step to find a guy outside of marriage. I was surprised by the amount of composure he was maintaining while having this conversation, because in my head I definitely did not imagine it to go this way when Neville would come to know about my affair. It was a welcome change, and I was very glad that he was not screaming at the top of his lungs accusing me for what I did. He told me that he was not angry or upset and wanted me to take my own sweet time to get ready. He also told me that he had no problem with me continuing my affair with Jack, as he knew that he was the one at fault and it would not be right on my part to ditch Jack just because Neville has now made himself available for me. Oh my God, where was this guy? I mean, if I knew that Neville would be so understanding about this situation and completely take the blame for being unavailable, then I would have had an affair earlier and not have lived so miserably like I did. I thanked Neville for being so understanding and told him that he would not regret being married to me, as tonight would be the best nights of our lives. I went into my vanity to search for my best lingerie to make sure that tonight would be the perfect night of lovemaking for me and Neville. As I was getting ready, the thought of Neville having my phone did cross my mind. But I shut it out because he was already aware of the affair, and the way he reacted did not seem like it really bothered him reading intimate messages between me and Jack. I left him to it, and somewhere I also had a naughty thought that maybe reading those messages might give him a few ideas about how to have some fun. I was giggling and laughing to myself, unaware of the events happening outside of the vanity room. It took me a good 40 minutes to make sure that I looked perfect. When I walked into the room, it was all dark, so I just assumed that Neville wanted to try something romantic. As I kept calling out his name, I couldn't hear the reply, so I grabbed the lights and noticed that Neville was nowhere to be seen. My phone kept buzzing continuously, and there were notifications from everybody at work, so I decided to check what the big deal was all about. I went onto my office application and saw people gossiping and commenting about someone's personal life. I decided to ignore it, as I knew the people in my office had no work but to keep commenting on unnecessary and illogical things. I saw that I had a few messages from Jack as well, but I decided that I would read them later and look for Neville. I searched the entire house but couldn't find him anywhere. I assumed that he might have gone out to get a few condoms. Since I had a little free time, I decided to respond to Jack and let them know that Neville will have no problems with our affair going forward. Maybe I could even call him home a few times. As I read Jack's messages, the blood drained from my face. He was literally abusing me in his messages and asking me why I would post pictures of him and me on the office forum. He said that not only pictures, I had also posted chats where we were discussing the same people from our office and calling them names. I could not believe him and kept free reading his messages over and over. I quickly went to the office forum and started scrolling to check for myself, and there it was. A clear picture of me and Jack smiling and naked, and below that there were chats mentioning our colleagues and all the nasty things that we discussed about. I needed to know that Neville, who tried to act all calm and made sure that I was busy so that he could post all of this and keep me occupied so that I would not respond to it immediately. He was such a cunning man. I am sitting in my room still wearing my bathrobe and writing this as I'm not very sure what to do. Jack would not take my calls and he blocked me after I kept calling him to explain what had happened. Neville just took off without a single word after creating all this mess for me to clear up. I understand that me having an affair was something that I did wrong, but what Neville did was equally wrong. So I turned to you people from Reddit to help me with any suggestions on how I can come out of this situation. Please let me know how to deal with all the shame that I will have to face, since everybody in my office already knows about my affair and what I think about them. I am truly thankful to everyone who has been a part of this journey with me. I know that this is not the end and the struggle has just begun. I will make sure to keep you guys posted on this when I am able to so that you guys know what happens to me after all this. Thank you for taking the time to read. Update. Thank you all the people for sharing their advice and giving me suggestions as to how to go forward with the situation I am in. I'm very happy for all of you for not judging me and blaming me for my actions and giving me genuine advice. To start from where we had left off, after my affair was revealed on the office forum, I did not have much of a choice, so I decided to lie low for a while till the topic died down and then go to office. I had to call my manager asking for a leave, and I could see that he was visibly unhappy about granting me a week away from work. He tried to ask me about the pictures and the chats, but before he could, I hung up. I tried calling Neville, as I at least wanted a confrontation from his end. It kept going to voicemail, which made me more and more frustrated about the situation I was in. Of course, none of my colleagues wanted to have anything to do with me, so they maintained their distance, which was understandable. I'm pretty sure I would have done the same if something like this happened to someone I knew at work. After a week of lazing around at home, trying to get in touch with either Never or Jack, and being unsuccessful, I decided that I could not hide in my house forever. I finally decided to go to work and wore the most subtle clothes that I could find and made my way into the lobby. I was aware of all the unrequired glances and whispers thrown my way, but I knew that there was no point in thinking about all this, so I put my head down and started walking straight towards my seat. One of my colleagues came up to me and asked me if it was true. I was taken aback by these upfront acquisitions, so I blurted out the first thought that came in. I told her that of course there were fake pictures probably created by some stupid application. So she then asked me what I was doing on that application, making naked pictures off me and Jack. I forgot that all of this was posted from my phone. That would still not explain the chats. I realized that I was being too stupid trying to cover it up, as there was no way people would believe that all of this was fake or that my phone was hacked. I was called in by my manager and asked me to resign graciously or they would have to kick me out. Since it was a question of the reputation of the firm, I was forced to resign, and just like that, I became jobless. I was furious when I drove home. Now I had no husband, no affair, no friends, and no job. What more could possibly go wrong in my life? I wish I hadn't said it out loud. As I was parking my car, I saw that the front yard was all messed up. I quickly ran inside as the door was wide open. There was a strong smell so bad that I could hardly breathe. I could see that was some weird black substance coated on all the walls. I couldn't make out what it was, but it smelled horrible. I picked up a baseball bat just to be careful in case there was someone still inside. I held my breath and slowly made my way towards the bedroom. I didn't know if it was the smell or the room, but it was much more disgusting. The walls were, of course, horrible, but the bed was filled with poop. There was a message written with that black substance on the mirror which said, "Happy cleaning." I instantly knew that it was Neville. I hoped that he would have left the bathroom alone, but of course not. This had something else, and it was of a different color and smelled very funny. So now I don't even have a place to go to the washroom. Great, my life has been on a roller coaster ride for the last 2 weeks. I decided that I should start cleaning the bathroom since I needed some place to relieve myself. I knew that calling the cleaners would cost me a fortune, and I just became jobless 2 hours ago. As I started cleaning, my eyes started getting irritated, and I felt itching all over my body. I decided to ignore it and continue, but after another 10 minutes, I just couldn't control scratching myself. I decided to take a break, but I just couldn't stop my tears, and I noticed there were rashes all over my hands and legs. I tried to check my face and remove any pus right off, and maybe I passed out as I don't remember anything after that. I woke up in a hospital bed and was told that I would have to stay there for another 2 weeks till they monitor my condition. They told me that I was exposed to toxins, which led to a severe skin allergy. If the neighbors wouldn't have complained about the smell, I would have probably died in my house. Well, it was good to have nosy neighbors once in a while. I was discharged, and it took me almost a month to recover from the allergic reaction on my skin. I was still on medication, and my skin was still noticeably gross to look at. In hindsight, I kept wondering if I should have taken a picture of the mirror to file a lawsuit against Neville for trying to kill me. I went home to a shabby-looking place and decided to leave after packing up my things. I opened the wardrobe and saw that there was nothing in there except my clothes. I did not have the time or energy to deal with it, so I just picked up my clothes and took off. I didn't know where to go, but I knew that it had to be somewhere far where Neville wouldn't be able to find me. I was certain that he was trying to kill me for cheating on him. I started my car and drove off without a destination in mind, and once I was out of the city and realized that it was safe now to make a stop. I stayed at the motel on the highway and changed my clothes to go out to eat something. I was sneezing every 2 seconds. It was a little concerning, but maybe because I was in the hospital for too long. Now that I was just breathing all the polluted air and out in that open, which was causing me to sneeze. I went to a diner nearby and ordered myself a sandwich. My sneezes were growing out of control and everybody kept staring at me. Awkward. I decided to take the sandwich and leave, but before I could do that, I couldn't breathe and I fell unconscious. This was the second time I was waking up in a hospital within a month without knowing what had happened. I was told that the clothes I was wearing had cat fur on them, which I was allergic to. It took them almost 2 weeks to figure out what it was. Since I was previously admitted for an allergy, it would be more difficult for me to recover from this. There was only one person who would have known about my allergy to cats and also have access to my clothes. I was scared to death, to say the least. Neville was trying to use everything he knew about me against me. It was scary just to think about it. I decided to write a long, heartfelt email to Neville to apologize and ask him to stop as I got his message. I would never do anything to betray him and stay away from his life if he would promise me that he would leave me alone. I just hoped that he would stop now and let me live in peace. I dozed off, and when I woke up, the nurse told me that there was someone who came to visit. They left me flowers and a letter. I was too scared to even touch them, as they could be something I should be wary of. I held the letter with the tissue and sanitized it before I even touched it. It read, "I accept your apology and I hope you get well soon." I breathed a sigh of relief as I knew that it was over now. I am still in the hospital, recovering. I'm writing this update because I am bored and also to let you guys know about everything that happened after Neville left me. I know it was one hell of a ride, but it's all over now. I have learned not to mess with the silent ones as they make your life threateningly dangerous. I don't want to work things out and would never or even try to live in the same house with him. Once I get out of the hospital, I'm probably changing cities and staying as far away from Neville as possible. Thank you all for being such good people and being there for me. I hope you learn something from my story and make wise decisions. My name is Carla, age 37. I have been married to Thomas, age 41. My husband and I have had a boring marriage. We were good to each other because we treated each other as friends. There were times when we went about not seeing each other due to our busy schedules for days. There were never any arguments about anything in particular between us. I think us being busy was what kept our marriage without falling for the longest time. I was a nurse, and he was a salesman. We both had erratic work hours and schedules, which made it very hard for us to find time for each other. Having kids was a topic we both dreaded. Being a nurse for kids was more than enough for me to be scared of having kids of my own. I would encounter kids with all sorts of complications, which hardened my resolve not to have kids of my own. Thomas had been quite understanding about it, as he knew that having kids would add to the expense, and we were not ready to take up extra expenses. We both mutually agreed on not having any kids, which upset both of our folks. But it was what it was. We were content with our decision and focused on building a strong foundation for our relationship. We filled our lives with adventures, hobbies, and quality time together, cherishing the freedom and flexibility that not having children allowed us. Our friends and family eventually came to understand and respect our choice, realizing that happiness can be found in different ways for different people. Very soon it got boring and we started living our separate lives. In a few years we became distant, and then Thomas did something unexpected that changed our lives forever. Thomas and I had very busy work schedules, which led to us seeing each other less than we previously did. Thomas had to make enough sales to keep his job and also manage our mortgage. Due to COVID and its after effects, I would mostly be tired after coming home, so sex was out of the question. There were times we would go about 15 days or even a month without sex. I would feel guilty about not being able to do my duties as a wife, but then again, nothing can beat sleep deprivation. Our days together mostly consisted of Thomas convincing me to have sex and me telling him how hard I had worked all day and just wanted to rest in peace and quiet. It was the same thing again and again. It was as if even our off days had a routine of their own. It was not always like this, though. When we started dating, we were so madly in love with each other that I would sneak Thomas to one of our empty lab rooms and make out with him. I don't know what happened as the years passed. The spark was lost, and we mostly focused on our careers and less on each other. We became consumed by our professional ambitions, prioritizing work over our relationship. The constant hustle and bustle left little room for romance and intimacy, causing the initial passion to fade away. We were finally free to get some time together with each other when I had a few days off, and Thomas had a long weekend to himself without any sales. So we decided to live a little the way we did when we were dating. We made plans and went out with friends. We were drinking and talking nonsense. We had about 4 rounds of beer and were half drunk. As we were on the 5th round, Thomas said in front of everyone that it had been almost 2 months since we had sex, and he wasn't expecting to have sex for at least a year at the rate we were going. Everyone started laughing, including me. But deep down, I was angry at how he could reveal such intimate information in front of all our friends. We were trying to mend our relationship, but Thomas and his loud mouth were not helping at all. I decided that this cannot go unpunished. I definitely did not want him to spill any more bedroom secrets in the future. I knew I had to address the issue privately with Thomas, expressing my discomfort and setting boundaries regarding our personal matters. It was important for us to establish a mutual understanding and respect each other's privacy, ensuring that our intimate details remained between us. We went home, and as usual, he tried to have sex with me. I pushed him away and told him that he was not going to get any sex at least for a year from now, just like he had predicted. He tried to reason with me, but I pushed him away and went to bed. He was too tired and drunk, so he went to sleep immediately. I was on leave for the next few days, and every day, he tried to convince me to have sex with him. I did feel bad, but every time I was about to agree, I would remember what he did at the club. This instantly angered me, and I would give a vague excuse to get myself out of the situation. This went on for 3 days that I was on leave. On the 4th day, he came in and walked directly to the bedroom. I was startled by his sudden intrusion and immediately sat up in bed, demanding to know what he was doing. His expression was filled with remorse as he apologized for his past behavior and admitted that he had been seeking forgiveness. I was determined to teach him a lesson so that he does not repeat the same mistake again. It was strange that he did not even greet me. He showered and got ready. He smelled really nice, but I did not want to give in to the temptation. He asked me how he looked, to which I replied that he looked swoon-worthy, but he was still not going to get any sex. He smiled and said that he got it covered. I assumed that he might have worked hard to sweep me off my feet and apologize. I decided to get myself ready and be presentable when it happened. I showered and wore my best-looking dress, which enhanced my features. He looked puzzled at my sudden enthusiasm. I decided to act as if I had my own stuff to do to keep up the shock value. I was almost ready when the doorbell rang and he rushed to open the door. There was a woman at the door, looking incredibly hot, who winked at him. He took her straight to our room and closed the door behind them. My heart sank as I stood there, feeling a mix of betrayal and disappointment. It became clear that his apology was never going to come, and I realized that I deserved someone who would truly sweep me off my feet and value my presence. I followed them and saw that the room was not locked. I knocked, but there was no answer, so I decided to barge in. I had to know what was going on in my house. I saw him shirtless, and the woman who walked in was taking her dress off. I asked him what all this was, and he said, like he mentioned, he got everything covered. He was fine, that I did not want to have sex, as he now realized that he did not need me to have sex. He found this really interesting proposal and met this woman who was willing to be his companion tonight. I was taken aback by his nonchalant way of telling me all this, as if it was all such a common occurrence. He did not even care about how I would feel about all this. He said that he had things to do, and if I did not mind, closed the door while leaving them alone. They continued undressing, and I did not know what to do, so I closed the door and went into the guest bedroom. I couldn't sleep the entire night as I could hear sounds and whispers from our bedroom. I tried to put my ear to the wall to listen to what they were up to. I don't know if he was really enjoying himself or just moaning too loudly to make me jealous. Maybe it was all just an act and nothing was actually happening there. I couldn't be sure until I saw it for myself. He came to the dinner table in the morning to get his coffee. I was already sitting there waiting for him as his companion had left about an hour ago. I had been waiting for the past hour, dreading to go to the bedroom as I was not ready to witness him naked after spending a night with another woman. He came and kissed me on my forehead as if nothing happened. He smiled at me and said that he had a wonderful time last night and asked me if I had a good sleep. Really, was he being serious right now? How could he even ask me that after almost causing me to have a mental breakdown? I just kept staring at him in disbelief, looking at him being so casual about it. There was no guilt or shame that he felt after what he did last night. He got ready as usual and went to work as if it was normal to sleep with another woman in the bedroom when your wife is right in front of you. I went to work but obviously could not focus on what I was doing. My job required me to be present more than 100% as people's lives depended on my actions. I decided to leave early and brainstorm a little on how to handle this issue with my husband. There was no use staying at the hospital when my mind was running all over, which could lead to serious blunders from my end. I went home and started thinking of where it all went wrong, that he had to take such a step and not even feel guilty about it. The more I thought, the more it became clearer about the night at the club where it all started. I recalled how he had been distant and unresponsive that night, spending most of his time engrossed in conversation with a mysterious woman. It was then that I realized the potential catalyst for his actions. Perhaps there was more to this situation than met the eye. As I delved deeper into my thoughts, I couldn't help but wonder if there were underlying issues in our relationship that we had failed to address. I decided to make up for it and apologize to Thomas for not bothering about his feelings for so long. No one other than me had any right to sleep with my husband. I prepared the bed and the bathroom to make it smell romantic. I lit candles and played soft music to enhance the romantic mood. I waited for Thomas to come home to the surprise. The doorbell rang and I checked myself in the mirror before opening the door. There he was, half drunk and with a new woman. He just pushed me aside and made his way to the bedroom with her. They went in and locked the door. The next morning, Thomas came and kissed me. He even thanked me for understanding his needs and decorating the bedroom for him and his friend last night. My mouth was wide open at his way of processing things. I was not doing all of that for him to sleep with a random woman. I think he knew me well enough to not come to such a stupid conclusion. Was he just trying to push me farther away by doing all of this? I did not really understand why he had to behave this way. And tonight I had decided that it would be a battle to regain my control over Thomas. He was my husband, and there was no way I would let things slip out of my hand. He wants sex, so sex is what he would get, but from me and not from anyone else. I was fully prepared for Thomas to show up and give him an ultimatum for his actions. I waited and slept on the couch itself. He never showed up. I woke up at 6 in the morning and gave him a call. He picked it up and I could tell that he was completely out of it. I was asking him where he was and if I should come pick him up. I could hear faint voices of a girl beside him. I tried to ask random things just to listen to the person beside him. He told me that he was fine and would be home for lunch. Before he hung up, I could make out that the person beside him was Karen, who was one of our mutual friends and who always had eyes for Thomas. I was devastated knowing that now he had started sleeping around with friends. How could he not think of what people would talk about us once all of this came to light? Was he so desperate for sex that he would be ready to sleep around with any person who shows even a tiny bit of interest in him? And how could Karen do such a thing? She was my friend after all. Even if Thomas was the one who suggested it, could she not have the sense to deny it? I couldn't jump to conclusions just by a few whispers. I decided to drive to Karen's house to confirm it. On my way, I kept praying for it not to be true. I had scenarios running in my head about it being true and imagining them making out. I shook my head and tried to focus on the road. I reached, and there in the corner was Thomas's car. Without thinking, I went and rang the bell. Karen opened it, and I could tell by her expression that I was the last person she wanted to see. I went inside without a word and saw Thomas sleeping in her bed with barely any clothes. Anger is not even the word that could describe what I was feeling. I snatched away the quilt and pushed Thomas to wake up. He got up with a start and looked at me. He hugged me and was going back to sleep when I asked him to see where he was. He opened his eyes and looked at Karen and then at me. He looked at the condition he was in and understood what must have happened last night. He told me that he never knew Karen was so good at sex. I mean, really? I started throwing things at him, which he dodged successfully. He stopped me and asked me what was wrong. Could he not know what was wrong? I was not his girlfriend anymore for him to toy around with me. I demanded an explanation, and he said that he understands my point of not always being available for sex, and he respects it. He doesn't want to burden me with it, so he found a solution. This helps him with his sexual needs and does not even put pressure on me for having sex with him. According to him, it was a win-win situation for the both of us. He told me to calm down and think about it. I was fuming with anger and told him that he could enjoy all the sex he wants to with Karen or any other woman because I don't care anymore. I was done putting up with his nonsense and now I didn't want to carry on with it. I gave Karen a disappointing look and walked out of the door, slamming it shut. I sat in my car and started crying. How could my life turn out this way? Thomas was the most responsible and loyal person I had known. How could he sleep with so many women and not even feel sorry about it? I was lost for words. I am writing all this sitting in my car, as I don't think I am in the right frame of mind to drive my car. All of the good times that I had with Thomas keep flashing in front of my eyes, as I am still in denial regarding the treatment Thomas is letting me go through. I would request you to give me suggestions on how to get my life back on track after such a fiasco. Update. Here is an update to what has happened ever since Thomas has been getting every random girl home whenever I was free. I left the house that I shared with Thomas, just like a few of you suggested. I started focusing on myself and living my life the way I wanted to. I went out with my friends over the weekend to a club and saw Thomas kissing a girl not older than 21 on the dance floor. It was very awkward for both me and my friends to see Thomas this way. I thought he would ignore us, but he came to us and sat with us. He even joked about finding other avenues if you are not happy with your partner and not feel guilty about it. I was sitting right there, so how could he openly say things like that? I was done being patient and decided to hit the dance floor. I scouted a young guy myself and started dancing with him. I got close to the young guy to show Thomas that he was not the only one who was capable of doing all of this. It was like we were competing against each other to show that we didn't care. We could see the jealousy in each other's body language, but denied that we wanted to be together. The entire night we tried too hard to irk each other and show that we could live happily without each other's support. The next day I got up with a throbbing headache. I had way too many drinks. I recollected last night's events and saw a spark of anger in Thomas's eyes when I was dancing with another guy. He did care about who I was with. It was just that he was angry and wanted me to acknowledge it. I sure as hell was not happy seeing Thomas with anyone else. We were living separately, and we both knew that it was all temporary. We had been married to each other for 15 years and knew that by now we kind of developed a bond that we couldn't share with anyone else. Even though I had been living separately, never once did the thought of divorce cross my mind. I knew how to make things right. I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Thomas about it. I told him that I truly loved him and would do anything to make sure that he stops behaving this way towards me. I even agreed to have an open marriage with him if he is suffering so much without sex that I have not been able to provide. I know you guys are going to judge me for opening my marriage and all that. Trust me, it does not make me happy, but I guess this is the only way I would be able to keep Thomas by my side. There is nothing else I can think of that can save my marriage. Many of you might be disappointed by my decision, but this is the only way out as I see it. Update. It has been a week since I decided to forget everything Thomas had done in order to spite me. We have started afresh and things have been very smooth between us. I must say that the once-in-a-while appearance of a new face in the bedroom is an idea that I am still not used to, but it was not as bad as I thought. I am actually glad about the idea of an open marriage, as it takes off the pressure of having sex with Thomas when I don't want to. The best part is that he gets a girl, they have sex, and she leaves. There is no emotional dependence or any drama that I would have to deal with. It is better than Thomas having an affair and asking me for a divorce. Right now, I am truly happy in my marriage, where I have the controls and I can make it work in my favor. Thomas and I mutually decided on the girl that he could bring home, and I would have my alone time that day with myself. The next morning would be just me and Thomas together working as a team to better our marriage. I wish we could have done this sooner so that we would have had a much more beautiful marriage all this while. I know that most of you might be disappointed by my decision to stay with Thomas, even after sleeping around with so many women. I should have separated and found a better man, but trust me, it is better to live with the devil you know than go searching for a new unknown one. As long as Thomas sticks to his promise of only sex and no emotional connection with all of his companions, I think it would all be okay. I know for a fact that no other woman would be able to put up with Thomas and his weird demands if they would have to live with him. I guess that is how I am going to proceed with my marriage going forward. I take a keen interest in choosing the girl that Thomas would be having fun with, and gives me enough control on the situation. This also sends a message to the women that I am willing with all of this, and Thomas would do things only by taking my approval. Even I would have fun once in a while with a man of my choice after seeking Thomas's approval. It was only right if both of us reaped the benefits of this open marriage. This has opened a new avenue of happiness which does not require us to feel pressured or burdened to keep each other happy. We could delegate the sex part to others, and when we needed to have a heartfelt conversation, we always had each other to fall back on. We were enjoying this phase of our lives, which helped us focus both on our careers and also on things that needed focusing. I thank all of you for being a part of my journey from a disastrous marriage to a successful one. I would not have been able to keep sane and do all of this without your opinions and suggestions. Thank you so much for sticking with me all this time and making sure that I make the right decisions. I would suggest anyone going through a rough patch in their marriage, especially due to sexual issues, to give open marriage a go. I understand that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it might just be the right thing to improve your marriage. If the sole problem is time for sex, then definitely try it out and see how it goes. The disclaimer is to make sure that there is no emotional involvement whatsoever to make sure that you always have an upper hand.